Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today, where we're wrapping up our CyberSmart series, at least up until probably after summertime. Take a short break here, and then probably pick us back up with some new topics coming up in the fall, late summer, early fall, perhaps. So today we're going to be. This is kind of part two of our AI series. We did one last month on just kind of telling you a little bit about AI and some of the different models and things out there, as well as what the future may hold for some of those. If you missed that, you can check it out on our website and listen and watch the recording of that to get brought up to speed. This one here is just going to kind of be an extension of that, kind of focusing more on how companies or even the field is dealing with AI from a cybersecurity standpoint. So you'll see as the presentation goes on here, there's a lot to talk about, and we're going to put do this at a very high level. However, hopefully the information will be valuable. If you haven't joined one of these before, I'm Brian. I'm a CTO here at PCA, and I do a lot of public speaking, talking about security stuff. I'm kind of a security guy by nature, so let's cut right into it here. Agenda. Just gonna go over the current state of AI. Where is things, and is the cybersecurity profession ready for this, and get their thoughts on it. Also, the perception of AI, what they think of AI as a threat, and then we're going to kind of go look at some high level regulations and policies, not only from a company standpoint, but from a standard standpoint. If you try to look at this, there's not many standards out there, and the ones that are really in their infancy right now. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and then also some of the employee access and risks that go along with, as a company, allowing your employees either to access this or whether you're taking a stance on keeping them off of it, which also brings up some other shadow IT, perhaps, issues that we can kind of touch a little bit on, and I'll explain what that looks like. So I pulled a lot of stats here. ISC Squared had performed a survey late last year in 2023 regarding AI, and really probed some of the security professions as well as organizations specifically on their usage of AI. So I've really leveraged a lot of their source content from that survey, and included in this presentation so we can talk about it. So this here has your organization seen an increase in cyber threats over the past 6 months? 54% are saying they've seen substantial increases in cyber threats. And out of those, can they tell whether it's AI generated or whether it's real? 13% are saying that they can tell that it's AI generated, and 41% are saying it is very, very difficult to tell that they're AI generated. So you can see that the bad guys are definitely leveraging AI in their attack structures, and it's something to be very, very aware of across the board. And then here in the bottom section here, 88% believe that AI will actually significantly impact their job over the next couple of years. And there's 35% that says it already has. So there's a lot of fear mongering going on with AI too. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the upcoming slides. Realistically, AI is not going to take over human mankind. It's just not going to happen. We actually feed the information that goes into AI. We can feed it. We can also stop it. And my take, we're not going to turn into the next Skynet or anything like that. It's very simple to take out AI if you wanted to. You unplug it. It needs power, and it's not going to power itself, so you simply unplug it and AI goes away. But AI has been around for a very, very long time, so don't think that this is just something new. It's been around extremely long time. It's been leveraged. It's just now becoming more widestream, and it's also a buzzword too, I'll be honest. many companies and vendors and things like that are using this as a buzzword. And if it has automation in it, it's got to be AI. Well, yeah, sort of, but not 100% accurate. So, if you are looking at AI, quote unquote, solutions, make sure it is truly AI. And we touched on that in the last presentation. So I'm not going to go into that in depth here. But so this is AI perceived as positive. So and how will AI affect security jobs? So you can see here on this graph that AI will make some parts of my job obsolete. Some people think that 56% of people agree with that. Either somewhat agree or strongly agree with that. So you can see there's a lot of fear that really comes down to that. And it's also one of those things. Will AI improve job efficiency for security professionals? So what AI does do, and where it could potentially make a specific job role obsolete, is exactly the type of jobs you probably are paying people to do that people probably don't want to do anyways. So they're like things like time consuming, lower value functions. Maybe your SOC analysts that are looking at logs day in and day out, things of those natures. That's exactly the areas of the organization you would rather not have skilled people tied up with, and leverage them at, maybe let AI automate scrubbing those logs, and then if it does pick up indicators of compromise or something that would trigger it to maybe be looked at then at a human level, where you can act upon it obviously better. Humans are always going to interact differently than AI will, but it's one of those things where you can leverage more skilled at a higher level than and let AI kind of take care of it at the bottom level here. So you can see here also on the right-hand side, how can AI including machine learning and generative AI, help security professionals? So people are saying, this is where they can leverage that automation, analyze user behavior patterns. So instead of somebody actually going through and manually having to do that, you can train AI to look at those. Once you have your baselines, you can have the AI look for anything outside of those thresholds, and it could potentially create a ticket. And whether that ticket is automatically, escalated or acted upon, or whether it gets sent to a higher SOC analyst to manually and human interaction. But this could take care of a lot of those low level things that somebody doesn't necessarily have to be looking at. Automating repetitive tasks. Again, if you're doing something, if you get if you're paying somebody, to do something over and over and over and over and over again, instead of having them manually do that, maybe AI could automate that process. Again, monitoring network traffic and detecting malware at the network layer. Again, it's kind of figuring out what those baselines look like, and then triggering actions via whatever automation or SOAR platforms that would automate that and escalate that up to a human level if need be for additional triaging. Predict areas of weakness and where breaches may occur. So that could, it could be a vulnerability scan or something that's running where AI, hey, I found this, and does it pass the sniff test and this and that. Again, AI will take you so far, and then obviously a human interaction would have to come into play, because humans are gonna. It's not an if then what. It's kind of okay. I'm gonna try something different, where AI may not be able to cognitively think that way. The other thing is detecting blocks and threat, or detect and block threats. Excuse me. It's again one of those things where all these things all tie into those time-consuming, lower value functions that you probably don't want to really necessarily always be paying somebody for, but AI could potentially automate those at that layer. Excuse me. So as we kind of alluded to, AI is a threat. This is okay. So, is it benefiting cybersecurity professionals more than it is the bad guys? So AI has definitely made the scene, I would say, on the attacker side, very, very dangerous. And the reason why it has is because unlike the days before this became publicly available, um, you had to have some sort of skill set to perform some level of hacking, as a bad actor. With the advent of publicly available AI and prompt injections and things like that, manipulations, you can get AI to do things that it wasn't necessarily supposed to do. And you really are just social engineering the AI to get around the guardrails and checks and balances that are in place. It's actually very, very easy to do, depending on the platform. But it's one of those things where you can get unskilled folks able to create, malicious software. You can get it to create malicious emails and things like that, where before you kind of had to have the skill sets in order to do that. So, long gone are the days now where you would be able to open up a real phishing email and detect that it was a phishing email because of the bad grammar, the bad language, the bad this, the bad that. If the bad actor or somebody that doesn't necessarily have English speaking skill sets, they just go in and have AI actually create that, and it's perfect grammar, perfect English, perfect everything. You may not be able to detect it as much anymore, and it can even craft copyrighted stuff too that it's not supposed to do if you ask it in a certain way. So, you can see on the graph here that out of all the people that were polled by this, only 28% think that this AI is actually benefiting the cybersecurity side versus the people that think it's actually helping the bad guys more than it's helping them. So that's kind of scary. I'm not sure entirely how accurate this is, but I can tell you, just based on the previous slides too, that they're seeing that increase in threats, increase in attacks. It could definitely be correlating to the AI being leveraged at some levels, um, especially the public ones, and now that's not to mention there's also three dark web versions of AI that are completely unhandcuffed. Now you do have to know how to get to those, and you also have to pay for those to some extent, but they are completely unhandcuffed. So you can ask that thing anything you want, and it will basically spit out whatever it is you ask, unlike the public version. So, and that is definitely built with the purpose of malicious intent. That's why it's on the dark web. So what is the biggest the AI concern? So there's a couple of different things here. Obviously, this is kind of the top one here was mainly because this is an election year, and by doing disinformation campaigns and sending out information that isn't accurate and leveraging AI to not only post those but to create that content, it could sway elections not only here in the U.S. but other countries as well too. So it's one of those things where it's designed to definitely put out disinformation there to sway potential election results in one way, shape, or form. The other thing is deep fakes. If you're not familiar with what deep fakes are, it's basically AI generating content for as an entity that isn't really that entity, but it's leveraging either their face, their pictures, their recordings, and things like that. And I'll touch a little bit more on that with the social engineering side. So social engineering is basically manipulating people to act upon things that that the malicious actor is intending on them to act on. So a very good example of that, along with deep fakes, you may have heard this story, but I'll quickly share it, is that there was a company, I think it was in Hong Kong, if I'm not mistaken, that there was a person that worked for a company there, financial person, and received a meeting invite from her CEO, her C-level boss, and it was a Zoom meeting, and she joined the meeting, and it was the boss and a couple other of executives on that call. And throughout that, like, she was interacting with these people and talking, and then at some point during that call, that meeting, um, she was asked to transfer, I think it was 20 or 28 million dollars. It was a high amount of money. And because, she didn't think really anything of it, she made the transfer and then found out that everybody on that call except for her, or this person, I think it was a female, not that it mattered, but except for that person was AI generated. So basically what they did is they somehow got snippets, and you only need like a 15 to 30-second snippet of someone's video and a voice recording, and AI will actually generate and react with actions and voice prompts and everything else with the close enough tone and things like that that it's very difficult to detect. So she was actually interacting with AI generated deep fake entities. And I'm not sure what the outcome of that was, but that is a very significant form of social engineering. So anytime you get any type of financial request, you obviously want to be very, very careful, even if it's in a meeting. You should be calling that person on a known voice number or something like that to make sure that you're really interacting with somebody and it's not just a deep fake. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of deep fake stuff out there that if you look close enough, you can actually detect it. The biggest thing is look at their facial things. You can tell by the shadows in their eyes and in the retinas. You'll see if you look close enough at least right now, if you look close enough, you can actually tell because the lighting in one eye is different than the other. And if it was real, it wouldn't be that way. And then also the way the mouth moves, you can kind of see it gets pixelated sometimes. But I will tell you, in next generation AIs that are coming, it's probably going to be even harder to detect. So you always want to make sure, some way, shape, or form, that you're actually dealing with a real entity. So what else worries them? Obviously, there's again, now we're going to touch a little bit on some of the regulation side of things. So 59% are saying that they currently lack regulation, and that's actually pretty significant. There's ethical concerns. There's also privacy invasion, risk of intentional or accidental data poisoning. That's the other thing too. You can actually create bias by injecting. Basically, you're poisoning the data sets, as anything you put into AI is basically regurgitated out for the most part. And if you keep putting bad information in, bad information in, bad information in, you're going to poison that data set to create a bias based off of what you're kind of feeding into it. So that's the other thing you need to be aware of, that there are sometimes bias situations that could, the information is coming out of that. So you've got to be aware of that too. The other thing that's worth noting is that the out of the biggest concerns here, you can see it's really generated more towards information deepfakes, social engineering. Attack-based concerns don't start emerging until later down in that list of responses. It didn't even make the list here. So, adversarial attacks was at 47. IP theft was, intellectual property theft was at 41. Unauthorized access was at 35. So it is way down the list here, like the physical attack-based concerns. So it's not like AI is like really going out there and being leveraged to physically attack you. It's more based on social engineering, tricking you, and generating content to get that response out of humans. So it's really looking for the human interaction with that AI generated stuff. So that's one thing to be aware of. So how can you be prepared better? Well, good luck. It's one of those things where you do need formal policies. So you can see here, these are organizations that responded. We have a formal policy on the safe and ethical use of AI, 27% there. 15% are saying they have a formal policy on how to secure and deploy AI technology that is in place currently. There's some here that are saying 39% are saying that they're currently discussing formal policy. And then there's 38% that are saying they're currently discussing a formal policy. And then 18% say they have no plans to create a formal policy either now or in the near future. So you can see there's a lot of people that are either, you're either going full bore or you're kind of going the opposite side of it, that you're not really going to try to address this. The other thing too is that 68% say they could confidently lead a rollout of AI in their organization. So that's pretty high. And then only a quarter said they were not prepared to deal with AI-driven security issues. The other thing is more concerning is that 4 in 10, so basically 41% almost, said that they have little to no experience in AI or machine learning, while a fifth basically said they don't know enough about AI to even mitigate concerns. So, you know, with those stats just mentioning, it's obviously clear that education on AI use, uh, perhaps best practices or efficiencies and things like that is crucial to get organizations up to speed today, and anybody that is trying to protect those organizations too. So so that leads us to regulations on AI. So who should, this is a stat, we kind of pulled this from the last slide presentation too. So the thought is who should be regulating, AI from the safe and ethical usage. 63% think it should be some kind of global coordination between governments. Some 61% say there should be some kind of consortium of AI experts. National governments are sitting at 54%. And then the private sector is sitting at 28%. And then there's 3% that said it shouldn't be regulated at all, which I think there should be some kind of regulation. What that is and what that looks like, I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait and see. So there's also the other thing too is that out of the organizations that have been polled, you can see that there's really no standard approach for allowing access to AI from an organizational standpoint. There's 12% there that said they blocked access altogether, which, I kind of alluded to that. By doing that, what you're going to end up creating perhaps is something called shadow IT. And basically what it is if you have somebody that really wants to leverage AI and you're blocking it, they're going to find a way to get around that block, whether they're using their cell phone that they pull out and leverage it, that might be connected to your wireless network, or some way, shape, or form, and they have another machine that isn't, that they bring in that they open up to run AI off of. That may not be the solution, and I'm not trying to sway you either way, whether you do use AI or not. I'm just saying that could open up potentials for shadow IT. So you have to keep that in the back of your mind if that's the stance you're going to take. Because if you continually put roadblocks in the way, people are just going to go around the roadblocks or find a way to get around those roadblocks. And then, you're at a situation where you either term them for it or come up with a compromise. 32% say that they've blocked employee access to some AI generated tools. So the first one is basically everything. The next one here is certain ones. So maybe they like, Copilot versus OpenAI or ChatGPT, or maybe it's Bard or whatever. Some way, shape, or form, they're filtering what they can and cannot access. And that could be by tool sets too. Maybe their tool sets, a business app that they use, does have AI generation that they're allowing them to use, but they're not going to be able to use, the public versions or something like that. The other thing too is 29% are saying they allow employees access to everything. So anything AI generated, 29% of the companies out there are saying they allow it. And then there's 17% to say they have no internal talks on this topic yet, and then 10% have no idea. So it's one of those things where you can see it's spread across the gambit here. With obviously the middle sections are either they block partial or they're allowing everything. So that's the bulk of the answers there, is in that kind of middle section there. So the one thing that I did want to bring up is that on April 29th this year, which wasn't that long ago, almost a month ago, NIST released a public draft based on the AI risk management framework that you can check out there at that link. But basically, this is a framework that is designed to help organizations not only identify risks that are AI focused, but also perhaps some actions that goes along with that. So it's one of those things, obviously it kind of gives you a framework to base yourself off of. So highly recommend checking this out if it's one of those things where you're looking into that. This is one that's out there. There's more coming too, but this is one that I would take a look at. It is, like I said, in public draft right now, but the what this is off of has been for a little while now, a couple years, and this is just kind of more of a organization focus that lets you, how to measure those risks, how to manage those risks, how to map things, and then obviously the governance is it. You have to have the governance there, which starts at the top down in order to implement all this stuff. But it's one of those things where again it's kind of all over the place, but it's something that is definitely needed, and this is just one of those that came out recently. So in closing here, just some key takeaways. Obviously, AI is going to impact works either now or in the near future, and you're going to have to draw that line in the sand at some point, and you're going to have to come up with some policies to address it. Whether you want to kick the can down the road or whether you want to address it now, it's just something somewhere along the line you're going to have to address it because more and more folks are coming into the usage of this, and it's actually being built in. Your phones are coming with it. Your browsers are coming with it. Any Office apps that you have are now coming with it. So it's definitely something you need to be aware of and come up with some policies to protect yourself. Uh, the second bullet point there is, as you can see throughout the slide presentation, there's a lot of questions in the responses, a lot of questions in how we're going to address this. So there's so much more that still needs to be learned about AI, which will obviously help with, that framework will help with some of that. Maybe there's going to be some more governance too that gets involved, whether it's at government layers or organization layers. However that is, there's obviously a lot to learn about this, and it's across the board. Everybody's learning about this at the same time. And again, there's no standards on how orgs are approaching internal AI, but I would highly recommend at least looking at it and maybe leveraging that NIST AI 600-1 there for at least a groundwork layer of how to try to look at this and maybe protect your organization. So that's pretty much all I got. Again, this is a very, very high level, quick, short, quick talk. And so I thank everybody for attending today. And if I don't think, let me just check here. I don't have anybody watching chat for me. Let me just go to chat. I don't see anything in chat there, so I think we're okay from a question side. But I thank you for your time today. Hopefully this was valuable, and we look forward to catching you when we pick up this series later in the fall this year. So thank you everybody for your time. Have a great day.